Welcome to PetX Talks, pet experts empowering pet parents. Pet parents deserve expert knowledge and inspiration directly from pet experts. The topics will range from history to innovation, from health to safety, from training to philosophy, and from experiences to inspiration. The pet experts range from veterinarians to researchers, authors to historians, organizations to individuals, and anyone with important information and inspiration for the pet world. We all want to do the best we can for our pets and the pet world. PetX Talks, the experts who give them, and the topics they share will help us achieve that. Are you ready to be empowered? Then join us for a PetX Talk. This PetX Talk is brought to you by Pet World Media Group, your partner in all things pet media. Additional funding and considerations provided by Pet World Insider, Dogwise, and Life is Perfect.
My name is Meg Harrison, and I'm here as a flower essence expert specializing in animal behavior. I want to talk about flower essences and what they can do for an animal in any type of setting or situation. Doesn't matter the circumstance. Flower essences, I call them the stepdaughter of homeopathy. They were discovered by Dr. Bach back in the 30s. And when I say discovered, what I mean is they were brought to the layperson in the 30s as a therapy. Every indigenous culture, of course, has some form of an essence. Here is what an essence is. It's this simple. This is a flower essence. These are geraniums that I picked on the way over here. Geraniums are good for depression. I can talk about that a little bit more later. But this is a flower essence. We sit it in the sunshine for about 20 minutes in a good glass container with a good water source. Strain it, and that's the essence. So when I say that every indigenous culture has some form of flower essence, that is true. Of course, we know that possibly we feel better after we have a cup of chamomile tea, after a beer. Those are different plants that have been brought together in a different way and heated. These are not heated. These are also so ecologically judicious for the planet because it only takes about 3 to 7 flower tops in order to make an essence. Once we add a preservative to this, we can have a whole gallon possibly out of just this one jar. Oils take pounds and pounds, almost tons to make ounces or pounds of an essential oil. Also, oil being that concentrated, it's not as healthy for animals. And when I say that, we now need to err on the side of caution as we're all discovering aromatherapy and how it's so wonderful for calming the animal. I need to have caution there because cats, for instance, cats cannot, they don't have, it's in their liver and it's either a protein or an enzyme. I'm not a physical expert. A protein or an enzyme that will not allow them to allow the liver to detoxify those concentrations of oils. Lavender is not very good for cats at all, especially after being exposed to it for years on down the line. Tea tree oil, some other things that we might have heard about already that are not that healthy. There are no side effects with flower essences. They work 100% of the time. Sometimes it is in the animal's life cycle that we're not going to be able to help them. And when I say that, a 19-year-old Labrador or a puppy, a 6-week-old puppy that was weaned too early. Those are animals that maybe we can't help immediately, but we can add comfort to their lives. I have found in all of these years that essences do not fail me. If they don't work, again, like I say, there is usually a physical cause. So what I like to talk about is that they increase and improve mental, emotional behaviors, patterns of learning, behavioral health overall. I'm proven on 17 species. I didn't walk into the cage with the mountain lion, but there was a mountain lion brought in. He was too damaged. He would never be able to be released back into the wild. He wasn't getting along with the other mountain lions in this sanctuary, and some of these flower essence blends, the same ones that I took to Katrina, as a matter of fact, worked well for him. We just worked on a mini hedgehog. I'd love to give a shout out to the Arizona SPCA if I can, and downtown Phoenix, and they're just fantastic. And we had little Zoe, the mini hedgehog, who was very shy, and just right here, and I had never worked on a hedgehog before, and I said, well, as a behaviorist, what I'd like to see from this hedgehog is I'd like to see a little relaxation, some self-grooming, maybe a little bit of movement in the mouth or the eyes. And right then, as the department head and I were looking at Zoe, just staring right at her, all of a sudden she just stuck her tongue out at us. And we were ecstatic that we were able to help Zoe. She is doing much better now, and I feel really good about that. Birds who have such a difficult time, self-mutilation, have a difficult time. Birds tend to grieve. Sometimes they outlive their owners and they tend to grieve. So again, these plants, because I've studied them for so long in so many different settings, these plants that I know can help for grief, for shock, aconite, that pretty little blue flower that grows as a ground cover, aconite for shock. Star of Bethlehem is also good for shock. Arnica montana, which has become so popular in the sports world of late, in creams and lotions for sore muscle. I used that after evacuating several horses in our O3 fires down there in San Diego County. And these horses were damaged, and I won't go into detail because we don't need that. But these horses were damaged and had a very difficult time accepting treatment for the burns. So we sprayed them down with a flower essence of Arnica montana. So again, the Arnica flower in just exactly like this with the water. And we put it into a spray bottle and we sprayed the horses down. And you could just see them, they all collectively sighed as the flower essences got to them. I discovered the same thing at Katrina. And when I went down to Hurricane Katrina, I had friends and family that helped me make a remedy that helped them all. And when I say that, the first, and as rescue workers and as relief workers and welfare workers, we understand that the first positive side effect was within a few days the diarrhea cleared up. Now I know that might sound not okay to the general population. However, in our world, in the world where animals live under stress, that's a huge indication that they're getting better. So when I went to Katrina, we had a blend, and I called it shelter blend because I didn't know what else to call it. But it has, for instance, it has yarrow in there. The yarrow flower is called, it's literally called the wounded warrior or the wounded hero. And that's who I was going to be dealing with. The animals that would have separation anxiety. So I had the yarrow. I had sweetgrass, which is wonderful for welcoming change. It's used in Native American ceremonies. And sweetgrass is beautiful, long sweetgrass. And in Native American ceremonies, they take the grass, they set it in water so it's easily braided, then it's dried to burn, just like sage or a smudge stick. And when we were doing that one time at my house, I looked at the water and I went, oh my God, that's an essence. That's a flower essence from the sweetgrass. So my family being my first line of guinea pigs, shall I say, we all did this water that was sweetgrass flower essence, and we were all asleep on each other like a litter of puppies, my teenagers and my husband and I. And it was just fantastic. So again, the proving grounds. And if it doesn't have any negative side effects, why not? And that's what I find with this alternative world. However, I don't like to call it alternative, I like to call it traditional. As we say, time-honored modalities that have been proven over quite a period of time. So at Katrina, I was able to help many, many animals, and separation anxiety was the forerunner of those symptoms. There are specific plants, as I was talking about with the Katrina blend, that I just generically call shelter blend. Certain plants have certain properties that help man. Ethnobotany is what the kids call it in college now. Ethnobotany, plants for man. 80% of the world still deals with plant-based medicines. And these plants have properties that can carry over to behavior and health. And this is the way that Dr. Bach discovered these. He wanted to have a gentler, a softer approach to medicine. He was a homeopathic physician, a bacteriologist, and he wanted to have a gentler approach. He also wanted to have something that could possibly help the person before they got very sick, before the dis-ease in their systems manifested into a pathological, grossly pathological state. So he thought that helping the mind and emotions would help the physical body not manifest. And I go like this because we have so many stomach issues with domesticated animals now. Colic in horses, stomach ulcers in dogs, show dogs particularly. They're under so much stress. Therapy dogs. And therapy dogs are wonderful. And everybody I know who has a therapy dog or a service dog of any kind, they treat them like gold. They love them. And the dogs love what they do. And cats and horses. They love what they do. They understand they have a job. However, that job can be stressful. And when I go like this, that's what I mean. So again, the Arnica montana. The Arnica montana will work in a way that it eliminates the negative muscle memory. So again, as the athletes and the sports people know, muscle has memory. They say that horses, their memory is gathered around their heart, and that's where it's stored. Different flowers, different reasons. In Spanish, I can't say it in English because the FDA won't like me, but in Spanish it says, cada planta es medicinal, means every plant is a medicine. I don't think that there are any mistakes in nature. I just think there are some attributes that we haven't discovered yet. There's some real simple stuff growing in your own yard that you can experiment with. Impatiens is a fabulous one. Impatiens is that pretty, it's pink, it's white, it's blue, and it grows in the pots on your porch, or it grows as a ground cover. Impatiens comes from Nepal originally. And impatiens is good for restlessness, irritability. Impatiens is wonderful for teenagers. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying. So what you can do again is just a glass of water, a few impatiens flowers, and then just take the impatiens out, take the flowers out, and drink that. There's mimulus for known fears. And the interesting thing about mimulus, monkey flower, the interesting thing about mimulus is where it grows. So I'm here in Southern California. I live in San Diego County. And there's, Palomar Mountain is a very famous region in our area, 6,000 feet. And I one day was out walking, and all of a sudden I saw this just scraggly looking yellow flower just out of nowhere, blooming in the harshest environment, where it's got all this forest and conifers and these beautiful pines, and it chose to grow in this horrible, sandy, hot, desolate part of the mountain. Mimulus is good for known fears, which means possible cases of abuse, means that thriving in a difficult environment, again going a little back to Katrina, or back to an animal that's living in a shelter, that it's not the best of circumstances, but that they can thrive despite that. And it's the same thing. It's where the flower chose to grow. The first flower to grow post-Katrina was, because I was looking for flowers down there, I was there from late September until February. And I was lucky enough to be hired, and I got to stay behind, and I helped it back in New Orleans. The first flower to bloom was New Year's Day, and it was an angel's trumpet. And after all these years of knowing about angel's trumpet, very, very toxic, very, very poisonous flower. And they're beautiful. Here, there's 14 different species, and they're beautiful. They're big like this, and they look like a trumpet, and they might be light pink, white, light yellow. They're gorgeous. It's also the same family as Jimson weed, our loco weed, that grows up and looks like a trumpet up. This is angel's trumpet that hangs down. And they call it angel's trumpet because it's so poisonous. If you eat it, you will hear the angel's trumpet. It's used for assisted suicide. So years later, as I was continually thinking about this angel's trumpet and what it was good for as a flower essence, because it's good for knowing your best. It's good for thriving despite the environment once again. Going against your thoughts, meaning that, things are negative. Why am I Pollyanna? Why am I being optimistic? And this is what Angel's Trumpet will do for you. And the interesting thing, since it was the first flower to bloom, post-Katrina. Angel's trumpet historically is used for assisted suicide. First flower to bloom post-Katrina, used for assisted suicide, and suicides tripled in the Gulf region that year. So again, I don't think there's any mistakes. I don't think there's any coincidences at all. I blend flower essences. The singles are wonderful. I love them too, but I blend them because for animals, I want to be able to help them with the original issue, the root cause. I want to be able to help them now with the negative behavior that's going on. And then I want to make sure that we won't have any more of these issues as we move forward. So I blend for before, during, and after different behaviors. What I'd like to do now is just to wrap it up and to tell you to please be courageous. Go out there, try some of these flowers. Make sure, again, I work with a botanist so that I know that I'm not getting the other plant. As we know, there's a lot of poisonous plants out there, so you have to be very careful. But if you are absolutely sure that it is impatiens, or that it is, I don't want to say arnica either, because that too is a very toxic plant flower. What would I say? I would say yarrow, I would say chamomile, I would say any of these, oak and oak leaf. But go ahead and experiment, play with it. Don't be afraid, because that's all it is what you're going to do is you're going to sit it in a good source of water for 20 minutes, take out whatever that organic matter is, the oak leaf or whatever, and then that's your essence, that glass. Go ahead, play, look at the books, look at historically how these plants, these flowering plants, herbs have been used in the past. And there's a lot of information out there now about flower essences. When I started this 40 years ago, I couldn't even find them here, all the entire line of Dr. Bach pre-1970. So go ahead and experiment. Have a good time. Don't listen to everything you read on the internet. And if you decide that you really want to get into this and you want to succuss and you want to store and you want to do all this, you can go ahead, feel free to contact me in any way. But just make sure that the information that you're getting is never harmful. Thank you.
Hi, we're here with Meg Harrison after her wonderful PetX talk, an introduction to flower essences. Meg, thank you so much. I want to ask, for those who are watching it, the proper ways to use flower essences. Are they things that we drink, that we spray? Let's talk about that a little bit.
That's more good news about flower essences. As far as I'm concerned, there's no wrong way to use them. They can be water food treats. They can be sprayed in the air. I can spray my hand and then gently pet. We work with feral cats. We work with aggressive dogs. We work with captured mustangs. They are not going to stand still and allow you to go ahead and spray them down or in any other way. Traditionally, again, going back to Dr. Bach and his flower essence therapy, he always did sublingual, which means under the tongue. But what I found, again, dealing with aggressive horses, that's nothing you want to do with a 1,400-pound horse. So I just decided this is the, if it works, it works. And that's what I need to say here too. So I spray my hands, I spray the horse, we spray the floor, and in the air we call it an emotional room deodorizer. Again, a very large Animal Welfare League SPCA in Arizona, downtown Phoenix. They are actually installing a misting system for their kennels, so that it will be timed release of just 2 seconds every 30 minutes.
Let's talk about how to get into flower essences. What is a good starting point?
I think that if there's a problem in the house, and again, what I really like about flower essence is that it treats the whole family. So you possibly have the dog who is barking all the time and keeping the husband up, and then now the husband's a little cranky in the morning because he's not getting rest. Maybe the dog isn't house trained, so the kids are cranky about getting up in the middle of the night and being confronted with the dog. So it treats the whole family. So again, for instance, the impatiens, that's a great place to start. It's a very safe flower and it's very available. Apple is another one. Apple I hadn't even thought of to talk about, but apple blossoms, they're wonderful for any kind of negative self-image. So I'm thinking of flowers that are very safe to use. So again, just put it in water, cover the flower with a good source of water in a glass container, whether it's a Pyrex bowl or a ball jar, and sit it in the sun for at least 20 minutes, and that gives it a 1x potentization, which is a homeopathic term. But for at least 20 minutes, and then discard the organic matter, drink that water, and you're good to go. Impatience for patience, restlessness. Mm-hmm.
So how quickly will we begin to see results, and what time frame does it usually take for it to start working?
Okay. All right. Animals have indicators. Animals will tell us how they're doing. And I'm continually getting schooled because as a behaviorist, I am looking for only certain things that I grew up with. You know, a twitch of the ear, a swallow, something, when the dog when the ears are twitching, then I know he's thinking. Or when a horse swallows and blinks, I know he's thinking. But there are other things that a yawn, a stretch, a little self-grooming. Also, either ignoring or engaging the environment. So a dog that's really stressed out and always looking all around and being worried about what's going on, if that dog will all of a sudden for a nanosecond check in with you, you've made progress. That's huge. Whereas the dog who's fixated on you or the frisbee in your hand, we've all seen those border collies, if they're fixated on that and then all of a sudden you call them off and they again focus on you, you've done a good job. The flower essences have worked.
Is there a standard time that you need to try this before you think about adding something additional?
Oh, interesting. I like to see something within the first few minutes. I really do, and especially within the first 30 minutes. So during an emergency, I will go ahead and I will use these every 5 to 10 minutes until I get composure back. So, and the emergency is the animal's emergency. It's not ours. Both sides of the road don't have to be on fire for it to be an emergency. It can be doorbell drama. That is huge with domestic dogs. Huge. Doorbell drama, guests coming, the cat hides, doesn't come out till after Thanksgiving. So those type of issues, what we see is we see gradual improvement. What I want is I want permanent improvement within a few weeks. Might be DNA damage, might be that there has been bad breeding in the background, generations back. Pit bulls, of course, we're seeing that. We're seeing where they are genetically bred to fight. And even though they're fine as puppies, and then the behavior begins to change later. As soon as that behavior begins to change, that's when we want to power up with the flower essences.
Well, I want to thank Meg Harrison for joining us and giving us that wonderful PetX talk on flower essences. And I want to thank all of you for watching PetX Talks. Thank you for joining us for this PetX Talk. To learn more information about Meg Harrison, visit BlackWingFarms.com. Funding for PetX Talks is provided by Pet World Media Group, your partner in all things pet media. Additional funding and considerations for PetX Talks is provided by Pet World Insider, taking you inside the world of pets. Visit PetWorldInsider.com for more radio interviews and expert articles and videos. Dogwise Publishing, all things dog. For all of your dog book needs, visit Dogwise.com. Life is Perfect, a gift book. A whimsical collection of themed dog portraits accompanied by wit and wisdom by the Pawtographer. Visit thepawtographer.com. For more information and other excellent PetX Talks, visit petxtalks.com. This has been a Pet World Media Group production.